Every morning at exactly 7:15 a.m., I boarded the same train, took the same seat by the window, and watched the world blur past as I sipped my lukewarm coffee and pretended not to notice anyone else. The city was always a little gray in the early hours, half asleep like the people packed into the train cars. And yet, there was something comforting about the routine. It gave me a sense of stillness in a life that often felt too fast, too noisy, too demanding. I didn't know when I first noticed him, but once I did, I couldn't unsee him. He always sat 2 rows ahead of me, on the opposite side of the train. Tall, dressed in black most days, his hair always slightly tousled like he hadn't quite decided whether to care or not. Sometimes he'd read, always thick, worn-out books that looked like they belonged to someone with a soul too old for his age. Other times he sketched quietly in a notebook, his hand moving fast and confident, as if the world inside his head poured out through pencil lines. He never looked back, not once. And yet, something about him made me look forward to the train every single morning. At first, I thought I was imagining things. The way my heart felt a little lighter when I saw him already in his seat. The way I noticed when he wasn't there. But it was real, and it wasn't a crush. Not the high school butterflies in your stomach kind. It was something deeper, softer, like recognition. Like my heart knew something my mind hadn't caught up with yet. We never spoke, not for weeks, until one rainy Thursday when the train lurched suddenly and my coffee spilled all over my cream sweater. I gasped, jumped up slightly, and cursed under my breath. I didn't expect anyone to notice. New Yorkers were pros at minding their business, but then he turned. He looked at me. His eyes were the color of faded denim, the kind you only get after years of wear. Soft, calm. And when he saw my mess, he didn't laugh. He didn't awkwardly look away. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small pack of tissues, held them out to me with a shy smile. "You okay?" he asked, his voice deeper than I imagined. I nodded, flustered. "Yeah, just my pride, mostly." He laughed quietly. "I've had worse days." I took the tissues, our fingers brushed for half a second, and something sparked between us. I felt it in my spine, in the way the world suddenly felt less loud. After that, everything changed. We started sitting closer. At first, it was just a polite nod, a soft, "good morning," an occasional comment about the weather or the train delays. But slowly, our conversations grew. Longer. Deeper. He told me his name was Ethan, that he was a freelance illustrator working on a graphic novel, that he hated the taste of coffee but loved the way it smelled, that he once spent an entire summer drawing people in parks just to learn how strangers moved. I told him I was an editor at a publishing house I wasn't sure I loved anymore, that I used to write poetry but hadn't in years, that rainy days made me feel oddly alive, that I wasn't sure what I was looking for in life, but I hoped I'd know when I found it. And every morning, those train rides began to feel like the most important part of my day. There was no official first date. We never made grand gestures. It was coffee after the train, then walks through the city, and then one afternoon, as we strolled through Central Park with the golden leaves swirling around us, he stopped and looked at me like he was memorizing the moment. "You know, I noticed you before you ever looked at me," he said. I smiled. I think I felt it. He leaned in, kissed me gently, softly, like he was afraid to wake me from a dream. From that day on, we weren't just 2 people on a train. We were something more. Something unfolding slowly, beautifully, like a story neither of us expected to be written into. We'd still ride the same train, but now we'd share headphones, giggle over playlists, steal sleepy glances when one of us was too tired to talk. Some days we'd sit in silence and still feel completely understood. One morning, months later, he handed me a small notebook. My name was written on the front. Inside were sketches of me, of us, of the train window, of my messy coffee spill, of our first real conversation. On the last page, he'd drawn 2 empty seats side by side with a note underneath. "Wherever you're going, I hope I'm sitting beside you." I didn't cry. Not right away. But later that night, as I reread it in bed, tears fell quietly. Because I knew I had fallen in love. The kind of love that doesn't announce itself with fireworks, but grows steadily, patiently, until it becomes the one thing you can't imagine life without. And the most beautiful part? He fell in love with me before we ever spoke.